If we compare Zelensky and Putin on a communicative level, it is clear that Zelensky is the winner. Selensky took a famous selfie with his Minister of Defense where they really hugged each other. And on the other hand, at probably the same time, there was also a similarly famous scene with Putin on the one hand side and his Minister of Defense and the General Chief of Staff at one of these ridiculously long tables. It was clear that there was a strong hierarchy between Putin and his generals. Putin clearly shows that he does not depend on the opinion of other members of his government. He clearly says, I'm the one who calls the shots. And this is also a message to foreign governments that they basically have to address Putin and to talk to Putin personally. And that there are not checks and balances that would hinder him from taking risky decisions. And on the other hand, we see Zelensky, who stages himself as a team player, as someone who is good friends with his team, and he also clearly points to the fact that the strength of the Ukrainian army lies in this spirit of community.
Once again, I would like to underscore that Ukraine is not just a neighboring country to us. It is an inherent part of our own history, culture, spiritual space.
Putin often resorts to history. For him, one of the centerpieces of Russian history is the alleged 1,000 years history of Russia. So he refers back to the so-called Kievan Rus, which was the first East Slavic state back in the 10th century. And Putin sees a continuity between the Kievan Rus and the present-day Russian Federation. And Putin now wants to show to the Russian population that there is a historical mission to Russia.
Ми не здамося і не програємо. Ми підемо до кінця, ми будемо боротися на морях, будемо битися в повітрі, ми будемо захищати нашу землю, якою не була ціна.
This is a repetition of a very famous quote from Churchill from World War II. Another instance here is Zelensky's address to the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, where he compared the fate of the Ukrainian refugees to the Jewish refugees during World War II. And he even compared the hardships of the Ukrainians now under Russian attack to the Holocaust.
Die Ukrainer haben ihre Wahl getroffen. Vor 80 Jahren haben sie die Juden gerettet. Deshalb tragen Menschen bei uns den Ehrentitel Gerechter unter den Völkern. Menschen in Israel, ihr habt jetzt die gleiche Wahl.
Here, of course, we have to say this was not quite successful because it is one of the central beliefs in Israel that the Holocaust is unique. And in this case, the comparison of the fate of the Ukrainians now and the fate of the Jewish population in Europe during World War II was less successful.
Світової війни. которых США и их младшие компаньоны сделали ставку, будет неизбежным.
Putin's speech on Victory Day was remarkable because he also talked about casualties, Russian casualties in the Ukrainian campaign. He included a minute of silence into his speech, and on the one hand he wanted to commemorate the fallen soldiers of the Red Army during World War II, but at the same time this minute of silence also included the fallen soldiers now in the recent war in Ukraine. And this points to the fact that Putin already may switch his rhetoric and tell the Russian audience that in fact the special operation in Ukraine is in fact a war, and that during this war there are also victims and casualties. It is very possible that Putin also tries to prepare the Russian population for a longer conflict in Ukraine, and there are also communicative risks to that, because in the Russian population, of course, Ukraine cannot be an enemy. There are many family ties between Russians and Ukrainians, and of course, at the time now, it seems to be a successful communication strategy when the Kremlin says we're fighting neo-Nazis in Kiev. But soon it will turn out that basically the Russians are fighting Ukrainians in Ukraine, even Russian-speaking Ukrainians. And there, of course, the Kremlin will have to come up with a new justification for this war. And we already see that the Kremlin says, well, basically, we're not fighting Ukrainians in Ukraine, but we're fighting NATO and the United States in Ukraine. Zelensky's communication strategy was very successful. First of all, in domestic politics, there is no one who is able to challenge him in the current situation. But I would also say in the long run, in international politics, Zelensky has now gained credibility and a standing in international politics which will earn him respects for the years to come.